This is On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. A weekly recap of your Philadelphia Flyers from blue line to blue line. Broadcasting live from Chickies and Pete's, tonight's show is brought to you by Han & Stone Spa, Pat Dion Beverages, The Capitol Grill, Chickies and Pete's, Payroll Service Solutions, and Independence Blue Cross. We now go live to Chickies and Pete's for On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. Now, here are your hosts, former Flyer Brad Marsh and Paul Jolovitz.
And thank you very much, Matt Miro, and welcome to the beautiful Chickies and Pete's in Bordentown on Route 130 for Independence Blue Cross is On the Ice. I'm Paul Jolovitz, along, as Matt said, with former Flyer Brad Marsh, our guest tonight, former beat writer for all kinds of papers and all kinds of sports. Hockey from 1989 to 2002, covered the Flyers for 13 years. Mr. Les Bowen, we got a lot to talk about tonight, guys. Brad, 5 out of 6, break up the Flyers, huh?
Well, it's exciting. All the radio shows that we've done, we haven't had a heck of a lot to talk about, and now we do. And what's neat, and it doesn't matter what sport you're talking about, is sometimes it just takes that one player to ignite the fan base, ignite the dressing room, and we got a goalie that's stopping the puck pretty darn well right now. 5-0 in his starts, 4-0, 5-0, 4-0.
4-0. Less people talking after this 4-game stretch. The thing that I love about fans in general is fans make sports. There are no sports without fans in any sport. But fans are so reactionary. They react to what happened last week, last night, 5 minutes ago, and the calls to trade Carter Hart for Sam Ersson. Obviously, I'm going to tamp down that enthusiasm, but so far, so good, huh?
Yeah, Ersson's been just great. We've been through this with rookie goalies so many times. It's kind of like a pitcher. You want to see him go around the league a few times and people adjust and figure out, he gives rebounds over here or his glove, isn't exactly where it ought to be or something. But you never know. I mean, he could just be really, really, really good.
He could. We'll see.
We hope so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but you're right. Five games, 4 games doesn't make a career.
I'm not sure Carter Hart is Wally Pipp quite yet, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I'll never forget one year we were in Tampa, and I went down to breakfast at there's a Marriott that's right across from the rink there, and Tocchet and Recchi were there, and they sat down, and they were sure that Roman Cechmanek was the real deal, and they wanted to tell me he was a great guy and a wonderful goalie, and things were going to be so tremendous with Roman Cechmanek, and
best laid plans.
Did not turn out quite like that.
No, we've had a lot of goalies like that.
That ever happened to you, Brad? You were with many teams in the NHL. You ever with someone that you thought, wow, this guy's going to be a stud, and turns out 2-3 game, 2-month, 3-month wonder, whatever?
Well, I'd really have to think of it, but the one that comes to mind, and I think everybody that's a hockey fan will know this player, Jim Craig.
Sure.
1980 gold medal. Like he stopped everything. He came to Atlanta Flames. I was playing with the Flames, and he came to Atlanta. He was terrible. Yeah. Like he couldn't stop anything, and we're in practice and going, oh my goodness!
The whole world was watching, right?
Holy smokes! It was unbelievable. Like, is this the same guy? And then the first game, we'll never forget it. We played Colorado Rockies. There's a team that doesn't. They're in New Jersey now, and the word in the dressing room says, guys, we can't let Colorado get any shots on net. So we beat them 4-2. They only had 13, 14 shots on net. Colorado did. And it was a funny side story there is the whole world was crazy for Jim Craig, and rightfully so. He won the gold medal. And Coca-Cola was in town. And the Flames at those times, we didn't get much publicity. And that was one of the reasons why we moved to Calgary in 1980. And he was supposed to be the savior, and Coca-Cola was in town doing this big commercial with him. And the word is if you got in the video action shot, you got a little bit of pay, a little bit of the commercial residual. Oh, my goodness, everybody was hugging him during the game. It was like this, and Jim tapping his pads and all that stuff. But I don't know what happened to him, but he couldn't stop anything. And it was talked about in the dressing room, and holy smokes.
Sports are full of these guys. I mean, Kevin Moss, you ever heard of him with the Yankees? hit 17 home runs his first 3 days. After that, forget about it. Bobby Hoying here.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, Steve Penny, I know you won't know that name, but
I know Steve Penny.
He won a Stanley Cup out of nowhere for the Montreal Canadiens, and he never played another. The next year, he couldn't do anything.
Les, what do you think it is? I mean, obviously, scouts haven't seen you. First of all, today, other than 30, 40 years ago, people have a book on everybody. But even though they may not, like Andrew Painter, if he comes up for the Phillies, first time around the league, obviously they haven't seen him at the major league level. What is it in general, do you think, about guys who can surprise people for a week, a month, but then reality sets in? What's the main reason other than just teams see him? Anything else other than that, an emotional reason?
I can't really put my finger on an emotional reason. I think some guys are not as mentally tough as others, and obviously when other teams adjust to you, it then becomes imperative that you make adjustments and fortify whatever is the problem. And if you can't do that, then you're in a lot of trouble. I remember I didn't do a whole lot of baseball, but in the late 80s, the Phillies had a pitcher, Bruce Ruffin.
Oh, yeah.
You might remember Bruce Ruffin. Had an amazing start.
Lefty.
And the deal was he had a sinker, and he could get everybody out with this sinker. But teams figured out over the offseason that he wasn't really throwing it for strikes. And sure enough, the next year they decided to wait, and he couldn't throw it for strikes. And if he threw it for strikes, it was up in the zone, and they hit it, So that was a huge problem for him.
Well, it's hard to succeed at the professional level, obviously, no matter what you are and what sport you play. Brad, I know you're not a hockey scout, but you were obviously a former Flyer, former NHL player. When you look at Sam Ersson and the very limited sample size we have, like you said, Jim Craig stopped everything. You see anything specific about Sam? Low, high, glove side, metal, anything specific?
No, I'm the wrong guy to ask about a goaltender's strengths or weaknesses. But the thing is with athletes in all the sports, and especially with goaltenders, is you'd like to see them after they let in a bad goal. After they've had a bad game,
Yep.
How do they rebound? How do they react? And it's the same with the pitcher. He gets knocked out of home run after home run. How is he in his next start? And so, the mental toughness is a huge factor in young players' development.
When you were saying that, I was thinking about one time at a morning skate, probably 20 years ago, the Sabres were in town, and they played some kind of a game where a bunch of guys would stand in front of Hasek and try to score, and they'd pass the puck around, and he'd have to stop it. And somehow Hasek lost the game that day. However, they kept score for this. So everybody's in the visitors' locker room, and we're doing interviews and stuff, and Hasek storms in and makes guys come back out. This is the morning skate. This isn't even a real practice.
How competitive he was.
He's got to play that night. He brings them all back out, and they have to shoot at him again and not score before their morning skate is concluded.
Well, that's why some guys are who they are. You see the behind-the-scenes list. Some guys just incredibly competitive, no matter what it is. Who's one guy, Brad, that you played with that couldn't lose at anything to anyone ever, no matter what? Anybody like that?
Well, I've heard that about Hasek before, that he was the best player in practice.
Yeah.
He wanted a 0 goals against average in practice, and he probably sees 100+ shots in a practice. But if you go back, and we've had some of the Stanley Cup Flyers on the broadcast as guests, and that was their mentality, and especially they were led by Clarkie. He never had a bad practice, and if you play hard in practice, then the games become easy. And there was a lot of battles in old-time hockey, and in practice, a fight in practice was very commonplace. It's not because the two guys hated each other. They were teammates, but they were battling. They were competing. For ice time because their coach was watching, and that's how you earned your ice time a lot of times, was on the practice field, or in our case, the ice.
Well, Sam Ersson won't be playing tonight as Carter Hart gets a start as the Flyers play the Washington Caps. Caps ahead of them in the Metro Division. Flyers won 5 out of 6. Won a game in Buffalo the other night, guys. It was rescheduled because of weather with Tampa Bay. Never mind the fact that won the full house in Buffalo, but the Flyers played great. Buffalo, good young team this year. Beat them 4-0.
Yeah.
The defense, Brad, was blocking shots. Ersson obviously stopping shots. But I want to talk about something with this game that has nothing to do with the game itself. Buffalo, obviously anybody that's been alive the last week knows about DeMar Hamlin and his situation. It's transcended sports, it's transcended news, it's transcended everything. But One of the neat things, the Buffalo Sabres walked in last week to whoever they were playing with the 3 shirts, "We Love You 3." And to see that, Brad, I guess I'll ask you first, it's just so tremendous how it's transcended everything and how the world comes together. There's so much bad in this world, and I hate to be so dramatic, but this is good, and it's a wonderful thing for a terrible reason, isn't it?
Exactly. Athletes are athletes. We have a mutual respect for each other, even though I've never played football, but I can appreciate what they go through. Our lives are pretty much the same. We practice hard, we train hard, all to win the Stanley Cup, in our case, the Super Bowl and the footballs. So we know the risks that are involved when we take to the field, take to the ice, take to the diamond, or whatever. So there's a mutual respect there, and really when you step back and think about it, it could happen to any athlete at any time. It was such a freak thing, but how many times in the game of hockey or baseball do you get hit with a pitch?
Well, we talked about it last week.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris Pronger did have it happen to a former Flyer.
I remember it well.
Yeah. Not the exact same commotio carditis, whatever it is. We know nothing about medical situations here, but it happened to Pronger. He played 2 days later. I don't think there's a lot of parallels, but any sport, I mean, the moral of the story basically is your life can change in a flash no matter what, no matter who you are, what you're doing, isn't it?
Yeah, oh yeah, we've seen that. Not someone's heart stopping necessarily, but terrible orthopedic injuries, spinal injuries, things like that. I remember one time, I want to say it was the last year of the Spectrum, Peter Svoboda at center ice, Mark Bureau got him with an elbow. They were skating right at each other, and Bureau just raised his elbow and popped Svoboda right in the face, and Svoboda went backwards, hit his head on the ice, was out cold, and I ran down to the tunnel thinking, oh my God, I've just seen somebody, either his neck is broken or he's dead or something. It turned out he did go to the hospital and he was out for a while, but he wasn't terribly injured. But I was running down toward the Zamboni tunnel, and there's somebody gaining on me on my left, and I look, and it's Ed Snyder.
That's it, Mr. Snyder.
He cared about his players, and so much to talk about with so much. But tonight they play the Caps. They have a guy that you might have heard of, Alex Ovechkin, Wayne Gretzky's NHL record goals, 894. Ovechkin just passed Gordie Howe, passed 800. Obviously, before that, he's at 802. I know, Brad, you're not a huge Alexander Ovechkin fan. I mean, we've talked about it before. You don't think he makes his teammates that much better? For people who haven't heard the show before, talk about Ovechkin, what you think, and then Les, give us your 2 cents.
Well, obviously he's a great player. He's very talented and so on and so on. I just don't think in comparison to his rival nowadays, Sidney Crosby, there's no comparison. Sidney's won at every level he's played: minor hockey, junior hockey, World Juniors, Olympic medals, World Championships. The list, and how many Stanley Cups Pittsburgh won with
3.
Sidney? 3.
Yeah.
Ovechkin's won, with the exception of 1 cup 4 years ago, whatever, he's won nothing. And to me, that is the sign of, he's a superstar, he's in the Hockey Hall of Fame, et cetera, but he's not on the par or the level of a Sidney Crosby or a Bobby Orr or a Gordie Howe, in my opinion.
Les, how much of being a superstar, which again, Ovechkin clearly is, no matter what your point of view on him, but how much of somebody's legacy, reputation, whatever you want to call it, is dependent upon how you affect other people in your sport, assuming you play a team sport?
Oh, a great deal of it. We've seen that here. Philadelphians love to argue Wilt Chamberlain, who won 2 NBA championships, but was the best player in the sport by leaps and bounds. It doesn't really have the resonance today that he might have because there were so many championships he didn't win that perhaps he could have won.
And his Sidney Crosby, Bill Russell, obviously won 11 of them.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, Ovechkin is he's a big, fast, incredibly skilled player, but this chase of Wayne Gretzky was the opposite. Gretzky was this little skinny guy, and you didn't have any idea how he did these things. But
every coach, I got the game plan. We're going to stop him. Nobody stopped him. And he had to prove himself at every level.
But I will say, when Ovechkin came into the league, there were maybe half a dozen players that you really wanted to see them. If they came to Philly, you wanted to see Ovechkin. I mean he is worth the price of admission. I don't like these. He's close with Alexander Putin, Vladimir Putin. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Probably Alexander too.
Yeah, Alexander's his middle name. Many people don't know that.
Yep.
He's close with Putin. He's not been a great guy, in terms of being a figure for the league and so forth. But in terms of his skill level, I mean, it's stunning sometimes to watch what he does.
Well, Flyers and Caps tonight. Right after this, Alex Ovechkin comes to a Flyer team that's won 5 out of 6. We'll talk about that team as we go on with Brad Marsh and Les Bowen. You listen on the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross, live from Chickies and Pete's, right here in Bordentown on 1490 WBCB. Time now for the Independence Blue Cross Live Fearless Player of the Week. This week, we've talked about him. It's Sam Harrison for his 4th straight win, first NHL shutout, 4-0 in Buffalo. Remember to choose Independence Blue Cross today and begin to live fearless like Sam Harrison. We're back from Independence Blue Cross on the Ice from Chickens and Pete's in Bordentown right after this. Stay with us.
Hi, it's Pete from Chickie and Pete's. Can't go to the game? Be at the center of the action at Chickies and Pete's, your favorite local sports bar, and enjoy our exclusive in-game experience. The sound surrounds you. The energy takes over. You feel like you're at the game, but you're only at Chickies and Pete's. Even better, no concession lines. Go to Chickies and Pete's on game day for our one-of-a-kind in-game experience. You're in the game at Chickies and Pete's.
I'm always striving to live my healthiest life, so I need a health plan that has my back. With Independence Blue Cross, I get access to the largest network of doctors and hospitals in the region and free virtual doctor visits 24/7. Plus, with premiums as low as $0 per month, I can stay on top of my health and keep my budget in check. Independence has given me coverage I can count on, and they'll do the same for you. Explore your coverage options and enroll today at ibx.com.
A flawless occasion begins at the Capitol Grill. From the moment you step into the Capitol Grill, located in the heart of Center City, the experience is one of comfortable elegance. Whether you're looking to host a private affair, a perfect lunch stop, or dinner destination, start your occasion at the Capitol Grill today. Visit thecapitolgrill.com or call 215-545-9588. That's 215-545-9588 for the Capitol Grill, Center City.
Payroll Service Solutions was established in 2001 to cater to the payroll needs of small to medium-sized businesses. Payroll Service Solutions offers unparalleled customer service while they deliver a complete and accurate payroll. When calling Payroll Service Solutions, you will never be put into a voicemail or go through a series of prompts to get to a person. All customer service representatives are extensively trained to handle all of your payroll needs, therefore saving you time. They value each and every one of their clients. No account is too small. Call Payroll Service Solutions today at 1-866-PAY-EASY for a no-obligation review of your payroll needs. That number again is 1-866-PAYEASY. Payroll Service Solutions.
If you're looking for a stylish and sophisticated fine dining experience, visit your Eddie V's Prime Seafood restaurant near King of Prussia. Eddie V's Seafood features an abundant selection of fine wines and curated cocktails to complement exquisite steaks and seafood made from the highest quality ingredients. In the V Lounge, sip on imaginative handcrafted cocktails with attitude while enjoying signature appetizers. Conveniently located between I-276 and I-76 near the King of Prussia Mall. Call them today, 610-337-7823 to schedule your night out for Eddie V's Prime Seafood.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and former Flyer Brad Marsh.
And it's time for our Smart Stat of the Week, brought to you by Payroll Service Solutions. Call them today at 1-866-PAY-EASY. That's 1-866-PAY-EASY. Simple stat tonight. Travis Konechny had goals in 6 straight games for the Flyers. Ended last game with Buffalo. Had 2 assists in that one. Leads the team with 21 goals and 43 points this season. That was your Flyers Smart Stat of the Week. Once again, brought to you by Payroll Service Solutions. Call them today at 1-866-PAY-EASY for the smart choice in payroll services. Payroll Service Solutions catering to the small and medium-sized business to handle all of your payroll needs. Call them once again at 1-866-PAY-EASY. But Les, that 6-goal streak did not get Travis Konechny an All-Star berth. In the first 32 for the All-Star game we played in Florida, there's 3 teams. We'll explain it if you need us to. Don't worry about it otherwise. John Tortorella clearly could care less, but Kevin Hayes named to the team. Travis Konechny's got to wait for the voting, fan voting, which ends January 19th. Any thoughts of that?
It doesn't bother me too much just because the team, obviously this doesn't take into account the streak that the Flyers are on now. The Flyers were terrible for so long there, and you just don't, that's the way sports is. You just don't get the kind of recognition you should get if your team is bad. It's, when Dale Howardchuk came to the Flyers, I remember talking to him about that, all those terrible teams he was on, It takes a toll on. You just don't get.
He was a good player.
He was a wonderful player.
Hall of Famer.
Yeah, great player.
Yeah.
Winnipeg Jets. That was a tough place to play.
They used to call him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but they had some great series with Edmonton back when 1 versus 4. That was the best round in the whole playoffs is Winnipeg and Edmonton.
But I imagine Konechny will get in.
Well, it's interesting you mention that because the All-Star game, obviously Hayes is doing what he's doing. Hayes not a John Tortorella favorite. He's been scratched this year as Tortorella tries to figure out who the long-term guys are. And another one, Brad, looks like it's Ivan Provorov, who struggled since being paired with Matt Niskanen in 2020. My personal opinion is that Matt Niskanen is not Bobby Orr. He's a wonderful player, but you got to be able to play with multiple people. You played with multiple people. You can't take John away and say Vince now stinks, no matter who you put him with. Provorov, I don't know whether it's a confidence thing, whether it's mental. He's obviously a good player, but we hear a lot about trade talks that Chuck Fletcher may try to get rid of him and unload the salary and get youth as John Tortorella figures out who he wants and who he doesn't want. How do you evaluate Ivan Provorov?
Well, he hasn't been the player that he was in his rookie year. He's regressed every year, and I don't know, Ivan. I don't know what his problem is, but from where I sit, he is not the player. He's regressed every year, as I just said. I wouldn't hesitate to trade him. We kept Claude Giroux. Everyone knew Claude was going to be moved eventually, and we kept him too long. We got nothing for him.
Well, you used to play with Doug Crossman. Obviously, when Howe and McCrimmon was pairing number 1, you guys were the second pairing. You play with 1 million guys in your career. Obviously, there's the comfortable old shoe that you're familiar with that makes playing with somebody easy, but you also have to have the gear that when Bob comes in from out of nowhere, you have to be able to play with him that night, right?
Exactly, 100%. So I don't know what they're going to do with Ivan, but he's not a top 2. I don't know if he's even a top 4 right now.
And I just wonder that we've seen this so many times with prospects over the last decade, guys that were built up and really looked like they were going to be great players, and they end up just not panning out the way they expected them to. And is it the players or is it the development?
The expectations are key also.
Yeah.
If you're expecting nothing and get something, that's one thing.
Right.
If you're expecting the moon and get nothing, it's easy if you're Andrew Painter with the Phillies or whoever.
But I just wonder if they need to look at how they're developing these players and the kind of coaching and the kind of the leadership of the team was an issue last year.
Brad, how much of Lappy's job, Ian LaPerriere's job at Lehigh Valley, is to win hockey games, and how much of his job is to prepare young players for the NHL without regard to winning and losing games?
Well, it's a combination of both because you don't have a good dressing room if you lose every game, and so your minor league team, your minor league system is just as important as the NHL team because when you do call these young players up, not so much systems, I think that word is overused in pro sports, but you want to come up with the right attitude and to be able to come up and sit in the NHL dressing room with the good head, good dressing room, and so I think it's vital. But what we were talking about earlier, that's the old pro sports catch-22. Like the coaches say the scouts aren't getting us the right players, and the scouts say we're getting them the right players, but they're not developing them. So it's frustrating when you see some of the other young players that have developed in the league, and ours are still seems a step behind. But what's really encouraging these last number of games that we look to be coming out of our shell is the young guys are starting to flourish somewhat. And a lot of people are saying that's because they got rid of Voracek and they got rid of Giroux, and that's no dish against them. But the veteran gets the extra ice time. The veteran gets the extra.
Creates the culture in the dressing room.
That's correct. And so now this young player he's the one creating the culture.
Allison, Frost, Cates, plenty of others. York. They look like they're starting.
We have new leaders on this team now.
At the same time, though, Brad, it's like somebody's cracked an egg last week, and all these guys are flourishing. Is that a coincidence, or is that?
I think it's John Tortorella right from the get-go. He's changing the culture of this dressing room of the team, and he started when he was hired. That's what is his message right from day one, and it's paying off. We are not getting outworked in any game.
That's true. I mean,
we are losing some games, but when you look at our talent, with all our injuries that we've had, like we haven't had Sean Couturier in 2 years now, a healthy.
Kevin Hayes. Ryan Ellis.
Yeah, Ryan Ellis. If Ryan Ellis is on that blue line, it makes a big difference. But we're not going to get him, so there's no sense talking about it.
Well, Les, one guy that the Flyers may get, probably won't, but his name is Connor Bedard. He's 17 years old, from North Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. If you watched the World Juniors last week, the most valuable player for Canada as they won the gold medal in that tournament. He's seen as generational, like a Connor McDavid, like a Wayne Gretzky. I'll believe somebody's Wayne Gretzky when I see him. I don't buy that at all, but he's a wonderful player. 19% chance the worst team has. There's two things. Obviously, the P word, playoffs, Brad. Les, I'm not really starting to worry about that yet. If the Flyers keep this rolling, we'll see. I think Tortorella's doing a good job, but Bedard is clearly the prize this year. Clearly a terrific player. Clearly will fit in with anybody, at least from the outside. How important is it, Les, I don't know how else to say this, to throttle back if you realize you might be making the playoffs, and how important is trying to get Connor Bedard, because that's a losing team's quandary.
It hasn't worked for the Sixers.
No, it hasn't.
Trust the process. What did that get them?
It's so much less straightforward than just saying if you lose a certain number of games, you can get Connor Bedard. That's not the system.
The NHL does it the right way.
I just don't think you can worry about that. I don't think you can take that into account. I think because the team has been bad for a while now, I think you have to do something to get your fans back in the building. You really do. I just don't think you can say, well, let's lose and hope we're going to get Connor Bedard.
Well, Brad, you mentioned something last week that I think is very, very smart. I mean, the Flyers, the Sixers, we can look at the last couple of years, see what they got, the process, blah, blah, blah. But you mentioned something that not a lot of Flyer fans who go to the games are leaving disappointed these days, that if they do lose, they're not getting outworked, they're playing their butts off, they're giving the people the best they have. They don't have Wayne Gretzky or Mario Lemieux or Bobby Orr, clearly, but they're trying. In Philadelphia, that's a big thing, is how hard you try. This team is really giving their best every night, not every second. That's not human nature to be perfect. But how do you feel about this team maximizing whatever it has under John Tortorella?
Well, they've been A+ in that category. If you're doing the mid-season report cards and the end-of-season report cards, there's not a lot of criticism that goes to this team at this stage of the season. They've worked hard. Some guys have stepped up. We got new leaders in the dressing room, as I said earlier. And I think there's a lot of positivity moving forward. And we add the one defenseman, the one or two forwards, and the whole makeup changes real quick.
All right, Les, I'm going to ask you this question. We'll take our second break in a second, but you've covered sports for a long time. You've covered 98 different sports. I've covered 98 different sports. You much more than I as a writer, obviously. You can talk to 10 hockey players, and 10 hockey players will tell you about how hard they worked that night. You can talk forever to everybody else in every other sport, and not that they don't work hard, but nobody ever talks about it. What is it about the culture of hockey that emphasizes work? Obviously, all sports you want to work, but what is it about hockey that everybody talks about it, nobody ever says a word about it in any other sport that I've ever been with?
Well, I don't know. I think people talk about work in football pretty much a lot too, but
we've worked hard.
It's a very physical, very demanding sport, and you have to. I mean, it's going in the corners, getting the puck out, you going to the front of the net.
A lot of battles.
That's what the foundation of the sport is. It's it's a sport that is about work. The shifts are so intense that they're, a minute each and stuff like that. And it's a team. I think the two sports I've covered mainly are football and hockey, and they're both very, very much team sports. Like baseball, not really a team sport. I mean, you play it in teams, but it's an individual sport. You can put 9 great players together and have a great baseball team. You know, you can't do that in football or hockey. You know, it's all about developing a sort of culture and camaraderie and work ethic, I think. But, you know, Jalen Hurts talks about work more than anybody ever.
Yeah, he does. You're right.
The thing with hockey, though, is every player that's dressed on the game contributes in that game. Yes, some play a little more than others, but everybody plays in that game. Everyone has multiple shifts to contribute to the success or the loss of that particular game. And so that's what I think that they talk about a lot of times is the teamwork, and we worked hard together out there. You know, whereas in football, I don't know how many people dress for a football game, but
48 now.
Not all of them play.
Yeah, usually there's a couple guys, a backup quarterback and a guard usually or something who don't get in the game.
But anyhow, in hockey, I personally think it's more of a team sport than the other ones because everybody contributes.
And we'll talk about that team sport. John Tortorella, Chuck Fletcher have some decisions to make. I actually think John Tortorella is calling the shots with the Flyers right now, but who does he like, who does he not like? We'll talk to Les and Brad about who they think might survive John Tortorella's first year, the fans, and much, much more as the Independence Blue Cross on the ice continues from Chickies and Pete's here in Bordentown. People watching TVs, all kinds of people having crab fries and good stuff. Right after this, stay with us.
Hi, it's Pete from Chickie and Pete's. Can't go to the game? Be at the center of the action at Chickies and Pete's, your favorite local sports bar, and enjoy our exclusive in-game experience. The sound surrounds you. The energy takes over. You feel like you're at the game, but you're only at Chickies and Pete's. Even better, no concession lines. Go to Chickies and Pete's on game day for our one-of-a-kind in-game experience. You're in the game at Chickies and Pete's.
At Independence Blue Cross, we believe in giving you the tools you need to pursue your healthiest life. From premiums as low as $0 per month to health discounts and cash rewards, it pays to have coverage with Independence. With the strongest network of doctors and hospitals in the region and free 24/7 virtual doctor visits, you can feel confident that quality care is always within reach. Explore your coverage options and enroll today at ibx.com.
A flawless occasion begins at the Capitol Grill. From the moment you step into the Capitol Grill, located in the heart of Center City, the experience is one of comfortable elegance. Whether you're looking to host a private affair, a perfect lunch stop, or dinner destination, start your occasion at the Capitol Grill today. Visit thecapitolgrill.com or call 215-545-9588. That's 215-545-9588 for the Capitol Grill, Center City.
Payroll Service Solutions was established in 2001 to cater to the payroll needs of small to medium-sized businesses. Payroll Service Solutions offers unparalleled customer service while they deliver a complete and accurate payroll. When calling Payroll Service Solutions, you will never be put into a voicemail or go through a series of prompts to get to a person. All customer service representatives are extensively trained to handle all of your payroll needs, therefore saving you time. They value each and every one of their clients. No account is too small. Call Payroll Service Solutions today at 1-866-PAY-EASY for a no-obligation review of your payroll needs. That number again is 1-866-PAYEASY. Payroll Service Solutions.
If you're looking for a stylish and sophisticated fine dining experience, visit your Eddie V's Prime Seafood restaurant near King of Prussia. Eddie V's Seafood features an abundant selection of fine wines and curated cocktails to complement exquisite steaks and seafood made from the highest quality ingredients. In the V Lounge, sip on imaginative handcrafted cocktails with attitude while enjoying signature appetizers. Conveniently located between I-276 and I-76 near the King of Prussia Mall. Call them today, 610-337-7823 to schedule your night out for Eddie V's Prime Seafood.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and former Flyer Brad Marsh.
Here at Chickies and Pete's in Bordentown, want to shout out to Wendy Coons, who retired from WBCB this week, the office manager who was priceless. And everybody will tell you that at WBCB. Wendy, good luck in your travels in the future. We're here with On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross with Brad Marsh and Les Bowen.
Hey, before we get going, we're
Yes,
watching
sir.
one of the many TVs.
Yep.
I don't know who the sportscaster. He's got a pink suit on.
He does.
You'll never catch me in a pink suit
Never?
for head. Oh my goodness gracious! I don't know who it is, but they're talking basketball.
They
so
are.
I guess in basketball they wear whatever the heck they want.
Whatever they want, guys. And in hockey, some strange outfits, not usually pink suits. As John Tortorella, pretty conventional, goes through his first year. Probably doesn't like Kevin Hayes, my guess. Ivan Provorov. Noah Cates, he told not to come to morning skate. Never seen that before. He works too hard. Guys, Brad, before we talk about the power play, which is a big point of issue with the Flyers, Travis Sanheim and Tony DeAngelo have played together for the past 8-9 games, and it seems to have clicked. And they seem to be together as a pairing. Who knows whether that'll last another week or 10 more years. What is it about pairings that sometimes click? Is it something that we'll just never figure out, or is there a concrete reason in some cases where skills coordinate?
Well, there is being comfortable with who you play with, and I think that comes from practice. That comes from playing together in a game. And far too often in hockey now, every coach does it. They mix the lines up because they're looking to ignite the team.
Every
or they're
game.
looking, and like when we played here, Poole and Prop and Kerr, you know, and there doesn't seem to be the line chemistry, forward lines or defense anymore, because they're always looking to mix things up. We need a spark. You're here, or you're benched. You're here, and I don't quite understand it, because chemistry really you can make the game pretty easy when you know what your partner's doing. Like Doug Crossman and I, man, we grew up together, but we never played together, and from Southwest London. But we just clicked. He came in from Chicago, and years before that, I played with Miroslav Dvorak from the Czech Republic, and we clicked, and we played very well together. And then me and Dougie just hooked up, and he was a left hand playing the right side, and I was left playing the left side, and we figured it out, and it worked wonderful for us. And I always joke when people, like Mike Keenan, you like him or you hate him, and they always say, well, what did you think of him, Brad? Well, I get 25 minutes of ice time a game. I love the coach.
Yeah.
You know, if you play, you usually like the coach.
Yeah, Les, you played for, or not played for, haven't played for anybody, as I haven't, but covered a lot of coaches in a lot of sports. We talk about John Tortorella and how gruff he is and how demanding he is. There's also a softer side if you see him on that side. As he navigates his first year with the Flyers and tries to figure out who stays and who goes for whatever the rebuilding process you want to call with the Flyers. Have you ever seen a coach like John Tortorella in any sport? Is he unique? Give us a comparison if there is one.
Oh, I think there's coaches like that in every sport. They're just really, they're very demanding, and they tend to have a short shelf life, I think. But they can be very, very effective, just as Keenan had a shelf life.
Yeah. Tortorella's won a cup.
Yeah. In football, you're not seeing as much of that as you used to see. Probably Bill Parcells was like that a little bit. The taskmaster coach who really, didn't praise his players very much and was adversarial. The thing with Tortorella, it has nothing to do with his coaching. I think he's a very good coach, but the adversarial thing with the media really it's so tiresome to me. He kind of, you saw that in the old days with Buddy Ryan here. He kind of wanted to make, it was always us against them.
Yep.
There's always a them. And sometimes coaches make the media the them, and that, you're just there trying to ask the guy, reasonable questions, and he's mocking it, and he's refusing to answer, and he's storming out, and, it's all histrionics.
Who's the guy, the reporter with the Rangers that he always...
Larry Brooks.
Larry Brooks,
yes.
yeah.
Yes.
How did you used to feel, Brad, if you scored, obviously you didn't do this in the game, 8 goals in the game, 5 assists, blocked 39 shots, and after the game, somebody asked the coach how Brad Marsh played in the 28-0 victory that night, and he says, well, in the second period, didn't go to the corner as hard as I should have, and didn't mention any of the good stuff. Did you understand the psychological game coaches were trying to play at times?
Well, Keenan played him all the time, not necessarily with the press. He played him in practice. He played him. Then he moved your equipment out of the room and so on and so on. And I mean, you just kind of with Mike, we just kind of rolled our eyes on it after a while. Thing with Torts though is I don't know him. I've met him and said hi and had a brief conversation with him, but anybody that's played for him or worked with him, the trainers especially, the people in the front office, love him. You won't find a person with a bad word to say about him, how he treats his players, how he treats his staff, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody loves him. He's a hard ass, but he's fair, he's up front. And but I get where you're coming from. But back when I played, there wasn't that media scrum that there is now.
Yeah.
The reporters just came in the dressing room, and so it was more conversational. And so on. It wasn't set up like the stage, which to me I think leads to the confrontation because he's here or a player's here and they're standing here.
Yeah.
Les, what's it like? I mean, obviously I've been in a million press conferences too, but I've never covered a team on a beat. What's it like when you ask a coach a perfectly reasonable question about some normal topic and the answer fires at you? You know he's got his own agenda and you look like an idiot, except not to anybody there, but to the public possibly. That confrontational coach who does nothing but say, I'm not going to answer this question the way it was intended, how hard is that to deal with?
It's hard, and as I got older, it gets harder to deal with. When you're young, you figure people can give you crap, and it's, okay. But after you've done this for a very long time, you just get so tired. You've been through it so many times, and you see what they're doing, and you don't really want to be part of their show, and it's but you also have to be a professional about it. I mean, you can't just refuse to deal with that person or stop doing your job because this person is acting a certain way toward you. You have to remain secure in what you're doing and how you're doing it. And
is that more of a recent thing? Because I started in the 70s and I can't really remember any confrontations like you would see now. And when did it become?
Social media has influenced that a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever covered a Flyers coach who was in any way confrontational. And I covered.
Keenan.
I didn't really cover Keenan. Paul Holmgren was the coach when I first started covering the team.
But I don't remember Mike being confrontational to the press. Maybe
I
could be
much,
wrong,
right.
but I don't know if he held the scrum separately after or when he was available to the press. Mike's anger was always directed at us, and but social media leads to it, and now all these bloggers in the room trying to look for not even a story, they're looking for the negative crap. And I think everybody from a coach's standpoint or everyone gets lumped into the same kettle there. And whereas they don't differentiate with the guy that is on the beat, that this is his job 24/7. He lives and breathes Flyers hockey or Eagles football. Whereas the blogger, the hell's a blogger, for heaven's sake?
How much is social media and the need to be noticed for saying something out of left field, good, bad, or indifferent? How has social media influenced press-coach relations, in your opinion?
Oh, quite a bit. Coaches don't want to give away things. It's certainly access to practice in football. It changed dramatically when social media came along because people didn't want to, anybody to tweet out that so-and-so's moved to left guard, in real time, and
or hurting or something.
It's had quite a huge impact, I think.
It has. I mean, it's immediate, and that's the way the world's going to be from now on. A lot of stuff for John Tortorella to process. One of them is the one area in a hockey game where if you're watching it, you can pretty much tell where the talent is on a team by its power play. Flyers have struggled on the power play this year, pretty good on the penalty kill, especially with Lawton connecting. But the power play, we'll examine that when we come back and find out how much talent the Flyers need. Do they need to get more? Obviously. How much more? We'll find out from Les and Brad as we roll on from Chickies in Bordentown right after this.
Hi, it's Pete from Chickie and Pete. Can't go to the game? Be at the center of the action at Chickies and Pete's, your favorite local sports bar, and enjoy our exclusive in-game experience. The sound surrounds you, the energy takes over. You feel like you're at the game, but you're only at Chickies and Pete's. Even better, no concession lines. Go to Chickies and Pete's on game day for our one-of-a-kind in-game experience. You're in the game at Chickies and Pete's.
I'm always striving to live my healthiest life, so I need a health plan that has my back. With Independence Blue Cross, I get access to the largest network of doctors and hospitals in the region and free virtual doctor visits 24/7. Plus, with premiums as low as $0 per month, I can stay on top of my health and keep my budget in check. Independence has given me coverage I can count on, and they'll do the same for you. Explore your coverage options and enroll today at ibx.com.
A flawless occasion begins at the Capitol Grill. From the moment you step into the Capitol Grill, located in the heart of Center City, the experience is one of comfortable elegance. Whether you're looking to host a private affair, a perfect lunch stop, or dinner destination, start your occasion at the Capitol Grill today. Visit thecapitolgrill.com or call 215-545-9588. That's 215-545-9588 for the Capitol Grill, Center City.
Payroll Service Solutions was established in 2001 to cater to the payroll needs of small to medium-sized businesses. Payroll Service Solutions offers unparalleled customer service while they deliver a complete and accurate payroll. When calling Payroll Service Solutions, you will never be put into a voicemail or go through a series of prompts to get to a person. All customer service representatives are extensively trained to handle all of your payroll needs, therefore saving you time. They value each and every one of their clients. No account is too small. Call Payroll Service Solutions today at 1-866-PAY-EASY for a no-obligation review of your payroll needs. That number again is 1-866-PAYEASY. Payroll Service Solutions.
If you're looking for a stylish and sophisticated fine dining experience, visit your Eddie V's Prime Seafood restaurant near King of Prussia. Eddie V's Seafood features an abundant selection of fine wines and curated cocktails to complement exquisite steaks and seafood made from the highest quality ingredients. In the V Lounge, sip on imaginative handcrafted cocktails with attitude while enjoying signature appetizers. Conveniently located between I-276 and I-76 near the King of Prussia Mall. Call them today, 610-337-7823 to schedule your night out for Eddie V's Prime Seafood.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and former Flyer Brad Marsh.
You know, we try to take a look into our guest, Brad, and then get a little bit of the personal side of the map. Before we talk about the Flyers and the power play, Les Bowen, who hails from North Carolina, covered hockey for a long time, has a social media footprint on Twitter. He'll talk about his social media footprint on Facebook. But how hard was it for you, a Southern boy, to obviously now the NHL is everywhere, but to get into the sport of hockey? And were you a fan as a kid?
I was really lucky as a kid. I didn't realize it at the time, but there was a minor league team in Charlotte where I grew up, the Charlotte Checkers, in the Eastern League and the Southern League, and it wasn't very good hockey, but they played, and there was a family that lived near us that was, I think the father was from Boston, and they had season tickets, and there was a whole bunch of kids and adult kids and all this stuff, and whenever somebody couldn't go to a game, they'd ask if I wanted to go. I was like 13, 14. Yeah, I'll go, you know. So I did have some kind of, background, which isn't anything like really playing hockey or anything like that, but I had been to a lot of games. And then I lived in Philly for several years before I started covering the Flyers. I read Jay Greenberg and, Al Morgani and people like that who wrote about it. And I covered some games for Jay here and there. I actually was around Mike Keenan a little bit in the late 80s before I actually started covering the team when Paul Holmgren was the coach. And, I felt okay about it. One of the reasons I felt okay, and I don't know if this would be as true today, but in 1989, most fans of the Flyers weren't real technical hockey people. They were interested in people's stories.
Oh, internet yet?
How you got here, what you know, the normal storytelling part of sports, not so much, you know, how you turn your hand to win a face-off, you know, or anything, because I couldn't have done very well with that. So, yeah, it worked out fine for me, but I was conscious. I always tried to be very conscious of the fact that I've never done this. So I'm not going to get, you know, snippy with somebody or ask a really impertinent question of somebody because I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, Brad.
And you kind of have to, you know, after a certain number of years, that wore off. But initially, I was very conscious of the fact that I'm on somebody else's turf here, and, you know, they're suffering my ignorance.
Well, your DNA is not hockey like it is Brad's, obviously, but
Yeah.
people grow up in different ways. And you have Bowen Sports now on Facebook. Talk about anything you'd like to promote the brand, Les.
Oh, okay, I just do, you know, I still like to write, but I had a gig there for a little while with NJ.com, writing a couple times a week about the Eagles, and that went away. And I still want to do it, but the problem with that is, you know, you have to be credentialed to go down there. You have to work for an entity that has a credential, so I don't have that. So just from my couch, I write a couple updates a week on Facebook. It's at Bowen Sports, you know, and it's I don't make any money off of it at all, but I don't need to.
Yeah.
People do read it, which surprises me. But, you know, it's a way for me to continue sort of getting my thoughts down about the Eagles.
Are they going to win?
Are
they going to win the Super Bowl?
They might.
Yeah.
I'm a little worried about Lane Johnson's injury being a big deal, and I'm not unworried about Jalen Hurts' injury, frankly, after what we heard following the game Sunday. But, you know, you retire, and I don't know if you've been through this, Brad, but there are things about what you did that you really miss, and there are other things that you don't want to ever do again. And it's kind of a tough target to hit. You know, because I don't want to go back to work full time, certainly. But I would like to have a little. I'd like to keep my toe in the pool.
Everybody I know that retired is working much harder now that they're retired than before they retired because you get all these side opportunities. Have you found that to be the case? I mean, people are just swamped, and you kind of retired to kick back, and you're kicking forward. It seems like.
It was true initially last year. Seemed like I was being offered more stuff than I could possibly do. Not so much right now, frankly. If somebody out there has a good offer, I'm open. But you know, I'm very fortunate. I don't really have to make any money out of any of this stuff now. You know, I'm just doing it to stay busy. And you know, but I do when the team that you've covered for a long time is having what could be a historic season. You kind of want to be on the inside of that a little bit. You know, you don't want to be totally out in left field. And, you know, long story, but sorry, that was...
That's all right. Hey, Brad has his things, too. He does on the side, coaching the Warriors.
Yes.
Great stuff. But he's into the game of hockey. Brad's your DNA. You didn't come from Charlotte. You come from London, Ontario. And hockey's been a big part of your life. And a big part of a hockey life, you didn't play too much on the power play in your career, but you see what a team can do with pure talent, like Edmonton. You watch their power play with Draisaitl, with Connor McDavid. It's ridiculous. They have a couple other players as well, very good. And the Flyers' power play has kind of been a sticking point. The penalty kill is more work-oriented. They're 5-on-5, but the power play is when you see sheer talent. And the Flyers don't have the scores. They don't have the creativity for a great power play. How hard is it to build a great power play? You played with some great power play players, maybe the best of all time in Tim Kerr. How is that, and how are the Flyers coming?
Well, you can't build a power play. I mean, okay, we're going to practice the power play today in practice. Okay, who's on it? Like, if we were healthy, nobody would be on it, type of thing. And it's so tough. I feel bad for the coaching staff because I can't remember which one is in charge of the power play, but you can't really gauge them because we're putting out, no disrespect to the players that are out there. It's just that they wouldn't be on the power play if, you know, we were healthy, number one. And
even
number two.
Konechny?
Well, yeah, Konechny would be on it, you know, but, hey, there was a time where he wasn't scoring, you know, and now he's hot right now. But We just don't have, you mentioned the Edmonton's power play, and we don't have those players.
Yeah,
it's tough, and they analyze the films to death, and we should have done this, but we don't have the creativity out there to create those special power play goals.
And there's no way to gloss over that, Les, is there?
Right. I'm not a technical, analyst of the power play, but watching power plays, the puck movement seems so deliberate. I really think it's not so much about a huge shot from the point. Usually, it's more about moving the puck quickly, and getting the defense out of position. And you just don't see that with the Flyers. The guy gets the puck, and he's looking here, he's looking there. Okay, I better pass it. And then the next guy is like looking, and okay, I'm going to pass it over here now. It's excruciating to watch.
And that's what happens when you have players playing out of their comfort zone. They're thinking too much, whereas McDavid and their power play and some of the other teams' top part. Look at Colorado's power play. They react, and they put the puck because they know their teammates. They're creative out there. And you see some of these beautiful power play goals. They don't practice that. It comes to them naturally because they're gifted offensive players.
Well, you see a lot of shots from the point, hoping to get a rebound, whatever. But when I watch the Flyers power play or others that are kind of a work in motion, I think of the Wayne Gretzky line. Obviously, the greatest passer by leaps and bounds in the history of the sport said one time, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And that's what I think about when I watch the power play. The Flyers are trying to be Pablo Picasso, try to be Pablo Rodriguez, and then just find a way, because they don't have that kind of technical talent, Brad, obviously.
Yeah, and it's the same as we'll talk football. You have a starting quarterback and you have the backup quarterback. There's a reason he's the backup quarterback. In most cases, he drops back fine and he cocks his arm fine and he can look here. But the great quarterbacks, and I'm not a football expert by any means, like when I watch the game, how do you see that guy?
Right.
They find him. They find him.
Yeah.
They
being
find
able to
him.
see the field is the essence.
And that was Wayne Gretzky. We always said he had the press box view of the ice surface.
Back
like
of his
how
head.
do you see that guy? Because that's his peripheral vision and all that. That's what the talent does to you.
Well, obviously the Flyers and the Caps tonight. This would be a big win of the Flyers. You talk about they beat some bad teams, Anaheim and Buffalo, the rescheduled game.
A win's a win, man.
It is, and
this is a real good Caps team. I think they got Wilson back recently, and this is a big test. It really is.
All right, Caps and the Flyers tonight. Flyers won 5 out of 6. Try to roll it on. All-Star break coming up, and could the Flyers make the playoffs? It'd be a hell of a long shot, but I guess anything could happen. John Tortorella's first year. So obviously these guys are working hard, playing hard, and having fun. Guys like Scotty Lawton and the young kids. It's fun to watch for the fans of the Philadelphia Flyers. We thank Mr. Les Bowen for being our guest tonight. Les, really appreciate it. And
great to be here.
Yeah, continued good luck. Brad, see you in a couple weeks, and go Flyers, right?
Yeah, boy, that hour went by quick, I'll tell you that. Yeah.
Always goes by quick. Chickies and Pete's does a great job of hosting us here. Our producer, Chris Ermer. Back at the station, Keith Noonan. We love being at Chickies and Pete's in Bordentown. We'll be here next week, the 18th, 6 o'clock. Our guest will be John LeClaire. I'm Paul Jolovitz for Brad Marsh and Les Bowen saying for the Independence Blue Cross on the ice. Have a great night, everybody. Go Flyers. See you next week.
On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. Tonight's show is an exclusive presentation of 1490 WBCB and heard around the world at WBCB1490.com.